Okay. Hi, Everson families. We wanted to do a little panel just to sort of discuss how to develop some consistent routines with this shift to digital and online learning. So we have some Everson staff and also parents here with us today to just kind of share about how they are developing routines at home and how these routines look similar and different to what school looks like in a typical setting. So first off, I'm Allie Steffen. I'm the school counselor at Everson, and I'm going to be kind of walking us through some questions to kind of get an idea of what this new learning looks like in our community. And I'll give everybody else a chance to share who they are and a little bit about their kiddos at home and their role at Everson.
Hi, everybody. My name's Lindsay Anderson, and I'm the district mental health therapist for kids in K through 5. And I am a mom to a 8th grader and a 4th grader.
I'm Katie Stirk, and I teach 2nd grade at Everson, and I have a 6th grader and a 3rd grader in the Bellingham schools.
Hi, I'm Crystal Campos. I am the ELL specialist at Everson Elementary, and I also have 2 kiddos that are in our district. They go to Sumas Elementary, but yeah, still trying to wrestle with that at home too.
I'm Nicole Woodridge. I teach 1st grade at Everson, and I also have 2 boys in 5th grade and in 3rd grade in the Mount Baker School District.
I'm Jamie McMillan. I teach 5th grade, and I'm also the title teacher at Everson Elementary. I have a 9th grader, a 5th grader, and a 1st grader, and my kids are all in the Nooksack Valley School District.
My name is Terrell Allen, and I'm a paraeducator at Everson Elementary, and both of my girls go to Everson. I have a 5th grader and a 2nd grader.
Awesome. So our first question, just to kind of start off, is just what does your schedule look like right now?
All right, I'll go first. So our schedule right now is we are doing school Monday through Thursday, and we're starting at the same time as Everson starts. We're starting at around 9:15, and the kind of the key things in our schedule that stay the same every day is that we always start with a little walk around the block because my kids are used to walking to school. We also are writing a loved one every single day. And then we also are doing our PE is always a bike ride after lunch. And then in terms of just every other thing, we kind of try to keep things around the consistent time each day, but trying to give ourselves grace and stay grounded in kind of those 3 main rituals that I talked about. And I'll hold up my schedule here if you want to look at it. I don't know if that shows it all, but yeah, that's our routine.
We're trying to do school 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and keeping it from 9 to noon each day, and just dedicating a half an hour to each of the subjects. So starting with math for half an hour of reading, then we do a 10-minute break. We have 20 minutes of creative time where you can draw or build with Legos or make slime, and then 30 minutes for writing, 30 minutes for science, and then getting in some PE there before we go to lunch.
So in our house, we're also trying to do school about 5 days a week. I wouldn't say we have like a super set schedule, but kind of like Mr. shared, we're trying to do about half hour per subject area every day, and that looks different. Sometimes the kids are working on the stuff that came in their packets. And some days there's been a couple like apps that teachers have shared for math and science and stuff. So we're trying to do some of that. My kids have really enjoyed the videos that Mr. Perry has posted for working out because they're trying to do PE every day. So I forgot to mention that I have a middle school student and he's taken on the role of like the PE teacher in the house. And so he either runs them through like one of the videos that Mr. Perry posts, or he like takes them on a bike ride, or he like makes little routines for them to do a workout and they get into it. And then our littles always like to throw in like a Go Noodle, which are just accessible through YouTube because they do those in school. And then one of my kiddos has promoted herself to be the librarian. So she sits everybody down and like reads them a story every day. And she tries to like change it up because we have quite the variety of ages in our house. And then recently they incorporated music time. We even got a ukulele in the mail yesterday because they're going to learn how to play a ukulele. So we're just trying to be creative. It is hard to like be as consistent as school, like following a school schedule, but we're trying to at least for like a few hours a day trying to do some stuff. And then they really like, my second grader like keeps me on my toes and she has a calendar. So I tried doing something on Saturday morning and she's like, Mom, it's the weekend. We don't do school on the weekend. So in our house, it's going to be strictly Monday through Friday. But yeah, I mean, it's worked out well. It's not perfect and beautiful, but it's working for now. Like for the life we're currently living, it's working.
So like a lot of us, we are trying to do 5 days a week. Sometimes it doesn't happen and we're okay with that. One thing that my kids really need is they need the same bedtime as if we were in school. So they're still in bed by 8 o'clock every night. So they're still waking up at the same time. And that sleep schedule has really helped our days go a lot smoother. And so we start our learning around 9, and it's just a half an hour of each subject. Sometimes we just have to put it away and be like, we're done for the day. So we might not get to every subject. And that's just for my sanity and my kids, and just to make sure that the learning's meaningful and not just doing it because we know we should be doing it. But we also, like last week when it was raining, anytime it stopped raining and there was a little break of sunshine, I kicked them out. And so we just stopped where we were so they could get out of the house. And that seemed to help a little bit. We are usually done by 1 at the latest. We don't try and recreate the everyday school schedule. And it is hard. But we're just trying to, we go through it and they get what they can done and stop when we need to stop.
And just like everyone else, we have kind of a set schedule. We try to start around 9, and we usually start with a walk or some kind of PE movement to get their bodies kind of going. I will say our schedule has pretty much been the way it is, but we've had to make little adjustments each week, just depending on what my kids need. This has been, I will say, really, really hard and really, really messy. And so I want to be really honest that's what's happening here. And I'm a teacher, so you would think it'd be a breeze, but it's not. It's really hard. And yeah, we're spending about 30 minutes. I have aligned my elementary kids. I have 2 elementary kids and a high schooler, but their schedules are pretty much the same time frames, just for the consistency of, well, why does he get to do that? And why do I get to do that? And so if one is doing some kind of Chromebook activity, then the next 30 minutes, the other one is type of thing. That's helped us to alternate that. And then I don't feel like my kids are on a screen all day. We are done by noon. And then one thing we started yesterday is we're incorporating recess. My first grader was having some big feelings, and one of the big feelings was that he was sad that he was missing recess. And although in my head they were going outside a lot, that didn't equate. And so now we just call it recess time. And that seemed to help yesterday. Hopefully today's the same. I'm going to share. Oh, another thing that we've incorporated is a break rest time. They don't have to sleep, but we're with each other a lot right now. And my kids sometimes need a little break from one another. And so I do incorporate that in the afternoon. And then the afternoon, it kind of is like an open, here's all the things that you could possibly think of that you could do in the afternoon. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see ours. It looks really fancy, but it's not. I just really like color coding. So hopefully you can see my screen. I have my 5th graders is first, kind of in that orange, and then my first graders is next to it. So you can see they're kind of doing the same kind of thing. Although this PE specials time kind of usually ends up down here at the 9. So we have a schedule, but it doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, it's, 10:15, we're supposed to do this. We have some grace and flexibility within that.
Okay, so I've been a little bit more flexible listening to your guys' schedules. Makes me feel a little different, but from the very beginning, we kind of started from like 10 to 1 as our schedule. They have time to play in the morning and enjoy each other. And, it's kind of fun that they both get to be home in the morning together. So I've been letting them kind of play in the morning. And then at 10, we switch gears and they need to start their schoolwork. And we know that they need to do some math. They need to do some reading and some writing and then some kind of extra activity. And I've kind of let them make a checklist and they can do it in whatever order they want as long as they get everything done. And so far it's been working good. They kind of choose when they want to do their things and check it off. And they do their work for those 3 hours. And then our afternoon is kind of our PE recess, playtime, and sometimes art and other things. So that's kind of how my schedule is working right now. And so far it's working okay.
Awesome. So
something really fast.
yeah.
So Terrell, I'm kind of in the same as you two. My kids have a list of what they need to do in a time frame, but I let them choose when they want to do it. And with the agreement that if they don't get it done or I don't feel like they got enough done within that time frame and I felt like they were kind of messing around a little bit, then they have to do more, or then I choose their schedule and order of what they do. But like we have the time frame kind of set out, but they do get to choose, and they do kind of want to try and stick to it because they're competitive and they want to see who can get more done in that time. But it's kind of like a weird balance where we have that schedule, but also I'm letting them have the freedom to self-manage and make sure that it's getting done. So.
And I can echo that for my elementary kids. They thrive on routine and structure. And so they needed that. But my high schooler, I don't have a schedule for her. I tried and it didn't work. And so she knows these are the things she has to get done and they need to be done, I hate to say it, before she goes to bed, but she's going through her own. So it's the same. I think it varies kid to kid. And so I think you're doing a great job.
Well, some of the flexibility came from like having to share the computer. And so trying to do reading on the computer didn't work at the same time. So they kind of had to be flexible about how they shared that time and how they worked on that so that we're in the same space at the same time or trying to use the same equipment. So for some, that's just how it ended up working out.
Yeah, that's great. That actually kind of leads into our next question, which is, how have you had to adjust existing routines, or maybe if there weren't routines, how have you had to shift those existing routines?
Well, I will say that everything about our lives has changed, it feels like. And so this is all just to say this has been really hard for families, whether you're in a 2-parent working household or a single parent household. Nothing about this is what we're used to. And so to speak to that a little bit, I actually really love the flexibility, Terrell, and your routine, because all of us are still working from home. And so kids we need to have some flexibility for just some breathing room so that we have time to attend to our own jobs as well as our own kids' schooling. For us, that adjustment has come with letting, like others have said, letting my kids take some time to choose within the framework of our day, like what they want to do. And I find that if they have some buy-in to what they're choosing to do, that they're actually a lot more independent, and that when they're independent, I have time to do my work too, and my husband has time to do his work as well. So that has been one way we've been adjusting our schedule. I tried to be a lot more directive with my 8th grader in the beginning, and that backfired as well. And so just letting her choose from her kind of choices from her school and just checking in with her throughout the day. I find that she actually gets a lot more done if I don't direct her as much.
I would agree with that. Like the first week we started out and I made the schedule in the order that I thought made the most sense. And then as we've gone on, just having them say, no, I'd rather do this first, and just acknowledging that as long as it gets done, it doesn't matter what order it happens in. The first week we were off, I was creating the work myself and telling them what to do. And so I found that with the schools now giving the students work and providing that, that's been a real relief for me, because then it's not coming from me like I'm telling you to do this, but this is what your teachers have made for you, and that's been a big help in our house. And so that it's yeah, so they're not feeling like I'm doing this because my mom's a teacher and she's making me do it, no one else is having to do this, but everyone is in this together. But I agree with Lindsay as far as like when they're working, I'm trying to do my work, so we usually all sit at the table together. Right now it's during our school time and it sure doesn't sound like they're doing their work from what I can hear. So, you know, I'll need to check in on that later and see how far we've gotten in our schedule. But yeah, just having that flexibility and grace that it might not happen all today. We'll pick it up again tomorrow.
Yeah, I think I'm having similar thoughts. I mean, we're a household of 8, so that makes it a little crazy. We have kids like all the way from 6 months to 12 years old. So like kids not being in childcare and just having kids doing different things has definitely just changed the way we're doing routines, and definitely a lot of flexibility. Like I like that Terrell shared that, because sometimes school happens like after 4 p.m. we do it in the evening. It doesn't, like, there's just been days if I'm super busy doing stuff that I need to do for work or dealing with some of our younger kiddos, then school happens later at night. As long as we, like, I'm trying to be consistent about the bedtime, so we're trying to make sure that happens. But just the flexibility, and even like sharing 3 meals a day together is really different, but it's been really fun. But definitely having to like make time for that, and that just changes how the whole day works too. Yeah, the flexibility piece is huge right now.
Something that we've kind of been struggling with is we are a family that is always on the go. We do our normal school day, we come home, we drop everything, and we're gone again, whether it's to sports or to school events or meetings. And so being home all the time, every single day, all together, we definitely have had some arguments and have needed to take some breaks. And something that's been hard for me is to just let things go and like, okay, today we didn't get any writing done or any math done, but that's fine. We need to move on and do something else. And I've noticed a difference in my kids when I've kind of taken a step back and just let things slide and not be so rigid on our schedule. And like Crystal was saying, eating together every meal, every day. It was really great in the beginning because we hadn't sat at our table in months for a dinner. And now, you know, sometimes the boys are outside eating dinner while Dad and I are inside eating dinner because we just need that separation. And so just being flexible with that is, I think, the biggest thing.
I think I kind of already shared that same kind of thing. Like, we've had to be a little bit more flexible with what happens and what's not happening, and that's okay. We'll pick it up tomorrow.
I worked pretty hard on that first week to try and set their schedule, and then you know, the next week, 5th grade started to do teams, and that kind of cut into some of our like schoolwork time because my oldest daughter was getting some of that social time in, and that was good, and she needed that too. So that in some ways on those days I just kind of had to forego some of the schoolwork so that she could do that social time, and that was really good. And then me going back to work that next week, you know, there were a couple of days a week where I wasn't home in the morning to kind of supervise and make sure they were doing what they were doing. And part of me was just hoping to check in at the end of the day and that they had actually done it independently without my help. And luckily my husband is home, and so he was kind of able to kind of watch things too. But I think just that adjustment of me not being here kind of changed things, and also incorporating some social time was kind of a different as we kind of move forward. And we're still trying to adjust to that. How does that figure into the schoolwork time too?
Great. Yeah. So it sounds like there's sort of this balance of compartmentalizing things, right? And having 30 minutes for this block and 30 minutes for this block, but then also recognizing that there are all of these outside elements also that we're having to shift and change and adapt to. And so where social time maybe was incorporated in with our sports time or with students learning, or recess was, or getting outside, it just looks really different now. And so the next question that I have is more for the teachers. So how does your schedule now compare to the schedule in your classroom?
I would say that it mirrors it in that we're trying to be consistent in what we do every day and dedicating a block of time to each subject each day. Ideally, you know, we kind of go through the order so that it becomes routine, and you know, they could be more independent. Like hopefully they're down there right now. It's, you know, 10:30. Hopefully they're doing some writing. Everything is a little bit shorter and more condensed. They're not having the lesson time. Most of the work is, you know, kind of independent practice. But, you know, it's the best attempt to touch each subject each day.
Kind of the same as Katie. In the classroom, it's very structured every day at the same time. But at home, it just wasn't working that way for us. So like I had mentioned before, they kind of pick and choose what they want to do and what order every day. But it's still a scheduled block of time. They have 30 minutes or 45 minutes where they're doing a certain subject, and letting them take more breaks, I guess, than their normal class day or what I would give students in my classroom. So putting it aside for 15 minutes and just going outside to take a break and coming back to it. So I guess my schedule is different than the classroom. It's not as structured as a normal day.
And I think I've kind of modeled it off of an early release schedule where we do try to get just smaller chunks of the different subjects in. And my kids are used to that because they've had early release or late start type things. And so that's been helpful for them to think about the schedule as it's an early release. We're not doing school all day. So.
Can I speak as a non-classroom teacher, just because I know that most of the people watching aren't teachers? That I know that I probably can relate to going into this feeling like I have no idea what to do because I'm not a teacher, and all of a sudden I am a teacher apparently. That even though we don't have like a classroom background, we can provide like a predictable kind of rhythm to the day. And that is so important for all of us as we're navigating just a completely different life than we were expecting to live even a month ago. And just having like those similar, like we start around this time, we always start with this similar routine and we end with this similar routine, and we keep a similar bedtime. Like those are three things that all of us probably are already doing that is incredibly valuable for all of our kids.
I was going to echo too. I'm not a teacher as well, but I don't think the expectation for you parents is that you're going to do a 6-hour school day. I mean, it is going to be condensed, and you can condense it to what you need to and what's going to work for you. So I don't think if you as a parent are trying to get your kid to do a 6-hour day, that's probably not likely possible. And just trying to get them to do a little 15 or 30-minute chunks is a good expectation. And I think that can be really helpful for some of you maybe.
I think to piggyback on that, just for the parents out there who are still like working during the day, like give yourself grace, and just if you don't get to these like set times of kids working on specific subjects, just at least like encourage your kids to read a book. Maybe they're not with you throughout the day, but if they're at someone's house or if they're at home being watched by somebody else while you're at work, just like have them read or write somebody a book, or even like having some art time. Not every day is going to look the same, but just right now I think flexibility and grace are huge in everybody's lives. But and like they said, like I'm also not like in the classroom all the time, but just from bits and pieces I've seen, and I think in my brain I had this like ideal thing that was going to work at home, and boy did my kids show me. Like, so just keep that in mind.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I think what I've been seeing also among my community is that there's this perception that parents are expected to be like homeschool teachers now all of a sudden, and allowing ourselves to take a step back and to see, wait a second, no, this isn't homeschooling. This is a like worldwide pandemic. Like we're all really struggling, and that's okay. And the something that you're doing is wonderful, and helping those kids to have just those small pieces of routine is everything. Just really quickly, let's just go through and share like what has been the hardest part of this for your family.
I think the hardest part, it's a good part and a hard part, but being together all the time is not something that we're used to. And being in such a small little world when we're used to being around like our classmates and our coworkers and our friends, we're pretty sad right now, and that's been hard.
I would agree that that slowing down, and like Nicole talked about it, being on the go, you come home from school, you go to sports, you go to clubs and meetings, and just having that all stop suddenly is something that we've probably all dreamed about, but then when it actually happens in reality, it does really change kind of your purpose and what you do. And so I think that's been hard. And on the other side of it, it is giving us that time that we always kind of wish we had to just relax and settle in and be with our family. So I'm trying to think of it in a positive way like that. Like, how can I take this thing that's really hard and use it to just kind of have more fun right here in our house with my kids?
Okay, I'll jump in. Something that's been hard for me is managing being home with my kids, but also still having to work. It's hard to have meetings like this when they're in the background fighting with each other, or they have a question about their schoolwork that they're supposed to be working on. And being able to manage that and not get frustrated that they are needing me when I'm trying to do my job. And like Katie was saying, we were forced to stop our lives. We're not going and seeing people we normally see every day, or going to sports practices, and even having baseball canceled is really hard on my kids, and they're sad about that. But also looking at it on the positive side and getting to kind of relearn who your kids are and how fun they really are to be around, that it kind of just all got blurred together before, where you weren't able to take a minute, and now they're older where it happened so fast, but you didn't get the chance to realize like the people they're becoming, and that they're actually really amazing little humans.
And I completely echo everything. This has been really hard. It's hard to work from home. It's hard. My husband is he's an essential worker, so he's gone. And my kids are having some really big feelings about all of this. The unknown. I mean, we're all having that. And then to have our little people feel that same way is hard. And so we've been trying to just stop and kind of wrap them in those emotional blankets, right? Like, it's okay that you're feeling sad, and it's okay that you're really angry about this. It's hard. And so, yeah, there's a lot that's been hard. But we just kind of take the next step, and if we're missing friends, we try to call them, or we try to write a letter or whatever, because it's important to acknowledge those feelings and to acknowledge them in ourselves and in our kids. And if we can't take care of those, it doesn't matter what school we're going to do. We need to take care of their personal lives and what they're really feeling before we can even attempt to do any kind of learning.
Okay, we can move on from there. Thank you, Jamie, for finishing that one off with that. I think that is really important, that we're really looking at the whole child right now. And as parents, we're really getting to, you guys are really getting to see that and see the pain and the hardship in yourself and in your children, and just to walk along with them in that is, and to be honest and vulnerable with them, I think is really powerful. So on a lighter note, let's shift to like, what are you guys doing to find joy and to have fun with your kids, even though this is really challenging?
I want to say that I loved hearing that Terrell is letting her kids have more playtime in the morning before school, and just to speak to how important play is. And kids are learning all the time, 24. Well, maybe not when they're sleeping, I don't know, but when they're awake, they're learning, whether they're at school or not. And so for us, that's looked like more time to bake, more time to do Legos, more drawing. And also, I think the other piece, the flip side of this is that I am, going on social media and watching other parents do like all these extra fun things, and like where I'm looking at that and thinking, am I not doing a good enough job? I don't feel very fun right now because this is really hard. And I think we're all adjusting to all of the change. And so I think just be gracious with yourself when it comes to having fun, even if it's, letting everybody watch a new show. That's fun that we don't normally do during the week, and just being okay with that.
We've been trying to do a lot of those like extra things to be fun too, but just as the actual like school day, sometimes I just do silly things like when it's time for school to start at 9 o'clock, I'll play the school bell sound on my phone to just kind of signal like, hey, it's school. Or the other day they were both in their room, so I went up to the door and I was like, school bus is here, and like we got in a line. And I mean, I have a 12-year-old and he got in line and we walked to the table like we were on a school bus, and they thought it was funny. So just, keeping it light and just trying to get them excited about sitting down to learn with you. And, got to get a little goofy sometimes.
Yeah, last week we had a like family spirit week for school. So like every morning we did kind of like what we sometimes do at school. Like we had a pajama day, we had like Nooksack Spirit Day, and we did Christmas in March, and just made it fun. And like I told my kids ahead of time, and they held us all accountable in the morning. Like, remember when you get dressed today, this is what you need to wear. So I'm thinking I'll probably try that again, like maybe next week, and just try to switch up the days just to kind of make it fun too. But we've also just been doing like a lot of baking together, and like trying to incorporate some of like the fraction stuff, and like kind of make it like a learning experience like that. But also kind of like Katie joining in on the fun, like being silly and like doing PE with them, or like going out to like recess time. They've just enjoyed making fun of me as I try to make like just kind of do what they do. So yeah.
I kind of was feeling like Lindsay said, where I'm not feeling very fun right now. I'm kind of the one in the house that takes charge of the learning. And so I feel like my kids more gravitate towards dad right now because he's doing all the fun stuff and mom is doing the learning. But we have done more cooking. So we're baking more that we haven't done in the past as much because we're so busy. Some movie nights. Definitely kids are getting more screen time than they normally do. And I've been finding like extra chores for them to do so they can earn money. So then they can't spend the money right now. So when we're able to go out again, they have some money that they can go and buy themselves a little something where normally I wouldn't pay them to do chores. And so they're liking that part right now.
We lost a couple people, so it's just the 4 of us or 5 of us now. But I think this is kind of an opportunity for all of us really to get creative. And that's really an opportunity for the adults and for the kids. And so I think it's cool to hear and to share those different ideas. And I guess I would just encourage like families at home too, to ask neighbors and ask your community, what are you doing? And like I learned a bunch of fun ideas just from you all. So last couple questions. How are you helping your kids to take ownership of their schedule?
So what we're doing is my son's school, he doesn't go to this next tech schools. They've sent like a menu of learning options every week. And so every day he gets to pick 2 or 3 to do, and we don't tell him what to do. He just gets to pick. And then also one thing we've done is I let my kids pick one thing that they just wanted to learn more about. And so for my daughter, that was the Wives of King Henry VIII. And for my son, that was pugs. And so they've been doing their own little independent learning on these little passion topics of theirs, and they're super into it. It's been fun.
I would agree with Lindsay, just kind of like once we've established the schedule and they kind of know the routine, then I think within that they've taken ownership of like, okay, this is what I'm going to work on from my menu today, or I know how to access these assignments my teachers sent me through OneNote on the computer, and I'm going to do this first, and then tomorrow I'll work on this next one. So I think they've done a good job of taking ownership over selecting what things to do. And we've done a little bit of the independent thing. Like my husband was in charge of homeschool on Monday because I was at the school working, and I got a little video of he and my daughter doing a science experiment where they were crushing a can on the stove. I thought it was going to go badly, but it ended up being safe and good in the end. So, you know, they're just kind of coming up with some of their own ideas. It's fun.
One thing for our middle school students, so like the middle school's creating like a weekly bingo sheet. So that's been kind of like a fun way for the middle schoolers to do like some extra stuff, because they all have like teams that they're a part of, but the bingo sheet has been kind of an incentive, and it has a little bit of everything, including their elective classes. So just kind of checking in, like, have you completed, like, have you gotten bingo this week on your bingo sheet? So that's been one way. I feel like it's been my other kids who are in school are like kindergarten and second grade. I think it's a little bit harder like for them to check their like kind of what they've done, but kind of like having a little checklist for them, like, have you done a little bit of this and a little bit of that, just to kind of go through the day that way. But I think it's for right now, for me, it's easier like to watch my middle school student take ownership of his. And so I guess that's one place where I can work with my younger kids, like how they can keep track of their schedule.
Like I had mentioned earlier with our school day schedule, my kids are kind of just in charge of choosing what they want to do at what time they want to do it. One area that we're struggling with is like actual time. Even though they're 5th and 3rd graders, they'll be working on something for 5 minutes and be like, has it been 30 minutes yet? And so like showing them like, let's set a timer, or look at the clock, what would the clock say after 30 minutes? And so even though I have some older kids in elementary, the independence is still a struggle. And so it's something we're working on, but I think also it's just important to remember that it's okay that they're still struggling with that. And because this is so different, that ownership of their learning is a lot harder than it would be if they were in their classroom, where they are students who do what needs to be done when it needs to be done without lots of reminders. But at home, they do need that still.
Something that I've been thinking about listening to all of you is the way that when students are at school, it's their job to be a learner, and they know that. And when they're at home, it's their job to be a kid and to play and to be a sibling and all of that. And I was thinking about, Crystal, what you were saying earlier about how your kids, like one of them would see themselves as the PE teacher or the librarian, and how we can help our students to practice trying on those different identities. Like, now you're a scientist, and now you're this, that, or the other thing. And that's connecting to career too, that they're connecting their learning to the real world in a really unique way right now. And we can use that as a strength, I think. So as we close, I guess I just want to give everybody an opportunity. If there's anything else that has been helpful for you or that you think would be helpful for parents as they're trying to develop consistent routines and adjust to this new way of being. Yeah, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think just start simply and just start with one or two things and go from there. Don't try to do it all at once. Just go slow.
I think just be flexible with yourself, be forgiving with yourself, do the best you can, and reach out to your child's teacher if you have questions, because we're still here trying to teach from the background, and think of your role more as like providing the space and the structure and the outline for this is what our day would look like, and then rely on us to fill in what they need to do and ask questions, and we're here for you in that way.
One thing, Lindsay had said it, and it really hits home for me, is that even before all of this, social media really has a way of making you feel down on yourself and that you're not doing enough. And so I have really had to tell myself, put the phone away, stay off social media right now. I'm doing what's best for my kids at home, and that has to be good enough for me, and I need to stop comparing to what someone else is doing and that they're posting on Facebook or Instagram, and just really giving myself the grace that I need to give and letting things just happen. I know that my kids will be fine when we go back to school. We're doing what we can, and it's good enough. And so I think it's really important for you to just remember that what you're doing is good. You're trying, and that's all we can do.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And if you have any questions, reach out to your student's teacher. We're all here to help and support you, and you're doing enough. You're doing it right. We're all working to adjust, and having routines and rituals is really a powerful gift we can give our kids, and just keep on keeping on. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one.